Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's an honor, quite frankly, for me to be here with y'all. As you may notice on my first slide here, it all began in Long Island, New York for me. Back in 1978, the same birth date as the great Cesar Chavez, March 31st. And you'll notice where that marker A is. It indicates where I was born and raised, just between that crazy city of New York and the Hamptons, that dichotomy, when you start to see those that have a whole lot, and then you have a whole lot of individuals working very hard for what they have. You know, this is the building blocks for why I became an educator. It all started in Long Island, New York. And it started in this house, which was a little house, and my father, who you may be able to see in this slide, with my mom right between the archway. They are my heroes, the individuals who are working class heroes, in the same breath as John Lennon's great song, Working Class Hero. My parents breathed the working class work ethic into me, and it became the driving force for what I do within the classroom. And this is in a town called Blue Point. And you may know the town because there's an oyster named after it. It's the Blue Point oysters. Though more important is the strength, I should say, for what my family had instilled in me. And it's that strength that carried me through to find the beauty within the world around me. You see, I'm here to discuss a method of instruction which I've developed, and it's titled the I.M.M.E. method of instruction. We're going to get to the definition of I.M.M.E. in a moment, but before I get there, I have to focus you on these two artists that were a huge perspective builder for me in my life. The first I want to mention goes by the stage name of Rakim. And Rakim has been known to be the father of modern MCing. One of his great songs, which I was just listening to with my wife on the way here, titled Paid in Full. Now, you got to realize, Rakim is from an area in Long Island, New York, called Wyandanch. Wyandanch historically has seen a lot of the scrutiny, the bureaucratic scrutiny, and it's been considered an area that was low socioeconomically, developed with the utmost desire within my perspective to go into Wyandanch and to inspire the students there in 2003. And it's where I did my student teaching. Rakim, one of the greatest hip-hop artists out of Wyandanch, New York. Now, I was listening to Rakim when I was a teenager, back in the late 80s, early 90s. And it wasn't until later in my life, until my early 20s, where I became acquainted with a gentleman who went by the name Tijan Kerouac, known as Jack Kerouac, who brought us one of the most pivotal pieces of American literature, known as On the Road. And being here in Monterey County, Jack actually spent a whole lot of time out here in Monterey, down by Big Sur. And I realized in my early 20s, when I was put on to Jack, that what he was doing in his writing form was exactly what Rakim would do in the world of freestyle hip hop. So now I'm connecting, growing up on the streets of New York, with a more intellectual view of the world around me. But it was still freestyling. First thought was the right thought. Just as we see within James Joyce, Marcel Proust, all of these great writers utilizing spontaneous prose, spontaneous prosody, as Jack would make the point. Now, Jack comes out of Lowell, Massachusetts, really born on my grandma's birthday, March 12th, I should say, and sadly passes away October 21st, 1969. But when Jack was born, and I want to say he was born in 22, you know, he was born to a very working class family, so I identified when I started reading Jack's work. Now, the reason I make these points is because this is the major tenet for why I do what I do. I wasn't born with that proverbial silver spoon in my mouth. Nobody handed me the class roster and say, hey, go teach, and this is how I'm going to show you how to teach. This is something that I developed based upon trial and error. And it was due to artists such as these gentlemen and a whole slew of others that gave me this belief in myself that I didn't even see in myself. But I heard their words, and it made me say, well, you know what? I got something in me. And at that point early on in my life, I was doing a lot of skating. And a big point I want to make for anybody who's involved with board sports, it's a very independent activity. And you'll notice on this slide, that's me in Scotts Valley doing a 50-50 grind on a snake board. Now, if you Google snake board, you'll see that it's evolved to a street board. A bunch of incredible individuals that I know along the way, that I've met along the way, and that I know now, such as Sergey Nicholas, 10-time world champ of streetboarding, maybe 11 at this point, and a whole bunch of other incredible people from the past and now. This sport gave me this drive to find and push myself, to find my ultimate greatest potential. So if I was trying to do a 50-50 grind like you're seeing, back when I started, I fell a whole lot. I actually broke my wrist at the X Games Roadshow, the very first X Games that ever happened in 1996. I was invited to the roadshow in the South Street Seaport in Manhattan, in New York City, to ride what you see here. And I broke my wrist skating this thing called the Death Box. 50-50 grinding, that same trick on top of this big bar, fell off about 6 feet with my wrist between the ground and my back. But I never stopped. I picked myself up. I allowed myself to say, the only way you'll succeed is if you fail. Failure is part of the process. And it's why I started to get myself into the classroom. Now here's my son Noah, and this is him and I in Harlem, New York. This is actually a school that they created a movie from. The gentleman who created this school, Jeff Canada, who was my boss at this time, created this school, the Harlem Children's Zone, the Promise Academy, which was the focal point for a movie titled Waiting for Superman. So a lot of my students were in the movie, my colleagues were in the movie. I'm in the back of a 60 Minutes episode with Anderson Cooper. It's one of those really, really cool things that happened to me in my life. But I remind us, I'm a kid from the streets of New York, born to a very working class family. My father, just so you know, did these things that I'm standing on, and he's still doing them. He's a carpet installer, and he's kicked carpet 40 plus years. And I would watch him work hard, tireless hours. And I would say to myself, I'm gonna make my family proud, which is why the driving force was instilled in me to maximize my potential. And it was back in April 1st of 2010 where my wife and I suppose my girlfriend at the time, and then we evolved into fiance and wife, we got on that road. We went to turn our dreams into our reality because we realized there was something even greater within our vision. We literally jumped in a Jeep Wrangler from Long Island, New York, and drove across America, ended up in a small town called Moss Landing. Had no idea it existed, had no idea Salinas existed. Only heard of Monterey in a picture I've seen on somebody's wall back in Long Island, New York. And when we got here, our future opened up and it unfolded. I urge you all to get on that road and turn your dreams into your reality, the metaphoric road, the literal road, whatever it is. Get yourself up and go make it happen. Because the I.M.E. method of instruction deals with inspiration, motivation, which ultimately maximizes education. I.M.E. It's the role of the educator to infuse inspiration into the hearts and minds of our students, as well as motivation. And if we could look at inspiration, the Oxford Dictionary defines inspiration as the process of being mentally stimulated to do or feel something, especially to do something creative. So if we can instill this feeling, this stimulation that you can do it, then hopefully our students will be motivated. And the Oxford Dictionary defines motivation as a reason or reasons for acting or behaving in a particular way. So stimulate our students. Give them a reason. Let them take their education experience to the top, as well as a desire or willingness to do something. Enthusiasm. We can never lose our enthusiasm. In the words of Aldous Huxley, I'll paraphrase, that's the secret to genius. Carrying the spirit of the child into old age. And that means never losing your enthusiasm. And when I say that, I want to bring it all together and let you really get a sense of what I.M.M.E is. By infusing inspiration and motivation into the students within a classroom, maximizing the education experience will ultimately be the result. Irrefutably, it will be the result. You're a speeding train that can't be stopped in this world. You have to see yourself as that. And I want to give you the basic conceptual framework for I.M.M.E. From Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we'll get ourselves as well into more depth in escape theory, as well as what we have seen brought forth by I.M.M.E and the Hawthorne experiment. You know, all of these major ideas give I.M.M.E substance. And from Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the idea of the physiological needs, to have the most basic needs fulfilled. Well, what's the most basic needs within a classroom? You need a textbook. You need a board to write on. You need, nowadays, some kind of technology. Well, if a school's not having that, they're lacking. And that school needs to get up to speed. And we need leaders who can transform lives. As well as with escape theory, we have to make sure that our teachers are not seeking to escape their reality by utilizing drugs, alcohol, other means of escape. Escape theory brought forth by Heatherton and Baumeister, who essentially delve into the notion that individuals seek to escape the mental chains they're within. Not just the physical escaping of going to another location, but to escape the minds, which can be one of the most difficult things to do. Our teachers need to feel strong in the classroom as well as outside the classroom. And Elton Mayo brought forth the idea that when we have leaders who care, when we have leaders who instill a feeling of value within their employees, the employees will acclimate to that bar of expectation, and they will maximize their potential. Bringing these all together, the hierarchy of needs, escape theory, and the Hawthorne experiment, bringing ideas together ultimately substantiates the conceptual framework for the I.M.M.E method of instruction. And here, for a moment, I'd like to give you a little insight to the I.M.M.E method and how it actually works. Here's a couple pictures that I've had with some incredible people, from T.J. Lavin of MTV, from Alexander Polinsky, who was just in the movie Teen Titans Go, as well as one of the lead characters in a TV show titled Charles in Charge, and has been a voice actor doing incredible work, as well as an individual who transforms lives. And Christian Hosoi, one of the greatest skateboarders on planet Earth. And there's my wife and I over at Berkeley doing some work over there as we were implementing the I.M.M.E method of instruction. So ultimately, you get to see what I do in the classroom. And what I do in the classroom is a absolute joy for myself when I start to connect the ideas that I have with what my students are seeking. And this is me in Bolt Hall in Berkeley, speaking to the students in a great summer program, which you'll see unfold here. All about supreme words all about hypocritical drink. I shout it out, open up every night in the truth of peace. By the way, I literally I walk into class every day just with a smile, I'm excited. And I leave class not just learning the course material, but learning life lessons. He's taught us to just, question everything, never rely on one sole piece of evidence to prove anything you have to say, He's really taught us a lot about just life in general, the class, And I remember my first day, I walked in, I just see this professor just laughing and jumping up and down the hallway, just getting hyped. And I'm just like, hey,
Don't worry. It just is engraved in my head. I'm just like, man, like this is the class. I will be there. Like, just so excited. But yeah, so for Faculty of the Year, Professor Nicholas Dejosia.
I take this as a reflection for all the great colleagues I have on this campus and all you wonderful students. It's an honor. Thank you. Regarding media, brother, and news, from your standpoint, you're one of the most prominent figures on MTV. Do you feel, bro, after all the years you've put into it, and TJ knows all those stars that you can hear and talk about, TJ knows these people. Do you think that the news, my brother, has a responsibility to society to give accurate information?
Yes, obviously, for sure they do, because a lot of times the presidential candidates are telling stories, and they're just making things up sometimes. I can't even believe that they can go over that. And defamation of character is just unbelievable in politics. It's incredible how they don't give a care what the facts are.
Nothing really, don't ever let anything define you except what you see for your life. I come from a very working class, working poor background, and people that know me know where I'm from. And they know, a bit of my family background. Swinging the hammer, working paycheck to paycheck. We know what it is to eat grilled cheese for weeks and soup for weeks because you didn't have food. But I'll tell you this, you know what the dope thing is about all of that? Is it built my character for me to stand in front of all of you and for me to stand in front of anybody. Doesn't matter if it's Barack Obama, doesn't matter if it's George Bush, doesn't matter if it's the Pope, doesn't matter if it's a homeless man or homeless woman. You know why? Because I am that homeless man or homeless woman. I am Barack Obama, I am George Bush. You are me and I am you. Be the best you can be in this world and put everything you got into it, because truth is, you get what you put in, you know what I'm saying? So put everything you got into it. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't want to steal the mic, because I promise you I can take this for quite some time. Miss Nancy Schiff. You know what? There was a piece I was going to do. It might take a second. How about this? If I come back on the mic, I will definitely rhyme.
All right.
Is that cool? I'll definitely rhyme. That's no problem at all. I just don't want to monopolize the time. But most of all, enjoy every second of your life.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is a bit of an insight into the I.M.E. method of instruction. And yes, I did earn the accolade of Faculty of the Year. And I remind you all that I am just an individual, a young man at this point, but a kid from the streets of New York. And I sought to maximize my potential in life, which is what I do within the classroom. I seek to maximize the learning experience of my students. And I focus you on this quote by Albert Einstein. Numerous are the academic chairs, but rare are wise and noble teachers who essentially fill them. Numerous and large are the lecture halls, but far from numerous the young people who genuinely thirst for truth and justice. Numerous are the words that nature produces by the dozen, but her choice products are few. We all know that, so why complain? Was it not always thus, and will it not always thus remain? Certainly, and one must take what nature gives as one finds it, but there is also such a thing as a spirit of times, an attitude of mind, characteristic of a particular generation, which is passed on from individual to individual and gives its distinctive mark to a society. Each of us has, to his little bit, toward transforming the spirit of the times. And I urge you all to live in the moment. What is the zeitgeist? What is the spirit of the time? Put your finger on the pulse. And as educators, get out there and give your best, because your students are waiting for it. And I urge you to recognize that this life will bring you many paths to walk down. And as Frost makes the point, it's the one less traveled that makes all the difference. But I also want to make the point to let your heart choose wisely. Use your best judgment and let your heart be what guides you. And if you'd like to stay connected to me, ladies and gentlemen, you can catch me on my wife and I. We have a talk show entitled The Subjective Perspective Show on Be Awoke Entertainment, which you can see here as I'm a walking billboard, and on the slide as well, beawoke.com/TSP, or just go to beawoke.com and click on the Subjective Perspective Show. You can hear me speaking with individuals such as Noam Chomsky, Bobby Seale, individuals such as Kenny Vance in the world of music, founding member of Jay and the Americans and will knock your socks off. And from Immortal Technique, to Dave Perner from Soul Asylum, and Barry McGuire. I got to put Barry out there. And I'll leave you with this idea for a moment that Barry said to me during our interview. He had said, Nick, you know, you may be in a room of 100 people. Not all of them are going to like you. But as long as you like yourself, as long as you know your value and your worth, that's all that matters. The I.M.M.E. method of instruction relies on the belief in your vision, because it will be your vision and your hard work that goes into your planning and your visualization that goes into the way you see your space created and the way you see your students connecting with ideas. It will be that experience for you prior to walking in the classroom that will allow you to infuse inspiration, motivation, in order to maximize education. And I took about 20 minutes out of my day today to share that important idea of the I.M.M.E. method of instruction. It's an honor to be here, and I thank you all.